I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 103. We are from Alter Ego Comics, a comic book store in Lima, Ohio, and every week we read a bunch of comics and we come back and give you our recommendations. So let's get started. My pick of the week this week is Star Trek Countdown to Darkness, number 1 by Mike Johnson and David Messina, with a story credit by Robert Orci, who's one of the screenwriters of the Star Trek movies, as well as Fringe and some other stuff, Person of Interest, things like that. So 4 years ago, IDW gave us a prequel to the first of the Star Trek movies by J.J. Abrams, and shed a lot of light on the backstory of the character of Nero. And in my opinion, it's essential reading if you're a fan of that movie, because it explains so much more about the character going into the movie that you don't see in the movie. They don't really give a lot of backstory to Nero. His story is really condensed into maybe a 2 to 3 minute segment about 3/4 of the way through the movie. So this time around, we're getting a prequel to the new movie, Into Darkness, and we really don't know a whole lot at this point. I know that I like the issue. I know that they're definitely playing on Star Trek history. There's a character that shows up that original series Star Trek fans will be familiar with, and that we haven't heard anything about in this new J.J. Abrams Star Trek universe. But I'm hoping that we get some information about who Benedict Cumberbatch is playing. Many people have hypothesized that it could be Khan, that it could be Gary Mitchell. Who knows? It could be a totally unique character. But they gave us so much information in the last prequel series that I'm expecting more information this time around. And so far with the first issue, it's great. Johnson really captures the essence of these characters very well. David Messina, his artwork is very complimentary to it. I know it's tough to do licensed books to capture actual actors' appearances instead of working with fictional characters. Well, they're fictional. Instead of working with characters that really are only on the printed page, like X-Men, or they're in movies too. Well, you know what I'm saying. But Messina does a really good job, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the series.
My first pick of the week is Chew number 31 by John Layman, with art by Rob Guillory?
There you go.
Gilly, my boy. So, if you haven't read Chew, you're wrong. We don't normally talk about Chew because it's not an issue we've classically stocked on the shelves. And maybe we were wrong to do that. So, we've started this time. 31 is the first issue following Trade 6, which is already in stock and on the shelves. So, if you've read Trade 6, you've been following Chew and Trades, and you just can't wait to get more Chew goodness, now you can pick it up in single issues. It's hard to tell you why to pick this up. If you're reading Chew, I don't want to spoil the end of 6 for you, but this picks up directly from the end of 6, which had some very, not serious, because Chew's never super serious, but very meaningful and profound events that took place. And this was really good. Chew, for me, is kind of a balancing act. You've got this very kind of emotional family drama story going on, but you've also got absurdness, and the FDA's outlawed chicken, and it's just insane. There's frogs or frickens and chogs and all sorts of insanity, and there's a crazy cyborg chicken assassin of doom called Pollo. And if that alone is not enough for you to check out Chew, you're wrong. But Chew 31 on the stands, as well as every volume in stock. Please read Chew.
And one of the reasons we're doing this is we did it with The Walking Dead, and believe it or not, we found it very difficult to sell single issues of The Walking Dead before the TV series became as popular as it is. So we didn't stock it on the wall, on the shelves in here. We had customers that were holding it every month, but we didn't put any on the wall. And then we took a chance with the first issue after the last trade, and now it's blown up. And we're stocking the single issues. We're selling a lot of the single issues. So it's another option for those of you who read Chew to check it out. And you should know that Image is really putting a lot of bonus content into their single issues. I don't know, I didn't read the new issue of Chew, so I don't know if there's anything in there, but they're really trying to encourage people to stop waiting for the trade, to actually pick up the single issues month in and month out. So there's a lot of bonus material in the different Image books that will not be in the collected editions. So another reason to pick up Chew on a monthly basis. Next up for me is Deadpool number 4 by Brian Posehn, Jerry Duggan, and Tony Moore. This has been high on my list of Marvel Now books since the beginning. I know I may be in the minority on this one. Sales don't dictate that I'm in the minority, but I've heard from a lot of you that you miss multiple personality Deadpool. And honestly, I hated that character. I'm not a fan of Deadpool at all. But I've been pleasantly surprised by this. I like that Deadpool has one voice, just the words that are coming out of his mouth, and maybe his thought balloons that might be in there somewhere. So I don't miss multiple personality Deadpool at all. I love this storyline of him being chosen by S.H.I.E.L.D. to get rid of the undead president, because they have to find someone who can do it, who's not an Avenger, who's not a hero, because they'd be seen as killing these beloved people. But they're really sick and twisted. There is a great scene in here. There's a great steel cage match fight between Abraham Lincoln, or undead Abraham Lincoln, and Deadpool, which is worth the price of admission alone. So the characterizations of the undead presidents are a lot of fun. There are a bunch of these kind of, they may refer to them as like D-list presidents, the ones who we're not as familiar with. And then you have Taft in his bathtub, which is awesome. So he's flying around in his super bathtub, which apparently can fly. What's not to love about this? Deadpool number 4, you really should get it. We've got 1 and 2 back in stock. We're still working on getting number 3 in stock, and we will have it at some point. So we're going to stock all these Marvel Now issues for as long as we can, so that those of you that might be late to the party can get on board.
Yeah, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but all anyone remembers is he got stuck in a bathtub one time. There's a lesson in there, I think.
Fat.
Next up, we have Green Lantern 16, words by Jeff Johns, art by Doug Mankey, Monkey by Doug. And this is not news. We've pretty much enjoyed every issue of Green Lantern since the reboot. I don't want to say it wavers, but sometimes it's harder to follow it when it's tied deep into crossover territory. But this particular crossover, Rise of the Third Army, is so good. It's really bringing to a head the continuity that Johns has been setting up with the Lanterns for years and years. And this issue especially I liked. A few issues back, we saw the introduction of a new Green Lantern, Baz, and this is sort of the, maybe not a conclusion, but a denouement of his story, where we see, things are starting to get wrapped up. We're starting to see him get back into the role you expect a Green Lantern to fill, or maybe not exactly expect, but into a normal continuity universe, into things where he's back in the wide universe. It's not necessarily about his origin. This is the start of his story as a Green Lantern, less than the start of his character. And it's so good. It also has a little more following of the Hal and Sinestro in the Dead Zone, or in the darkness, or in the death, or wherever it is they are, trapped in the black pages with no real contrast on them. And it's really, really good. All of the Green Lantern titles are solid. Core's out this week, and it was good. New Guardians actually was this close to being my pick instead of Green Lantern, because it's also sort of the semi-conclusion to Kyle's story as he tries to tame the entire Rainbow Coalition of Lanterns. And it's just, in a lot of ways, the Green Lantern universe is kind of separate from the main DC universe. They don't cross over a whole lot outside of maybe Hal being in Justice League, although he's not even there right now. And this is really a great kind of encapsulated, I can read these 3 or 4 books and get a whole story and get a whole sort of section of the DC universe that you just don't see elsewhere.
Next up for me is Wolverine and the X-Men number 24 by Jason Aaron and David Lopez. Again, should not come as a surprise, since I think we talk about Wolverine and the X-Men every time a new issue comes out. This issue is a nice change of pace from the nonstop action and frolicky fun of the Frankenstein Circus storyline that we had most recently. And Aaron does a great job writing some nice character pieces for Kitty Pryde and Iceman, for Wolverine and Storm. And it's just, Lopez's art, I think, works really well. There have been some great artists on this book. You had Chris Bacalo, you had Nick Bradshaw, and now we've got David Lopez, and we've got Ramon Perez. I think that's his name. The guy that did Tale of Sand is coming on board very soon, and his artwork is awesome too. So it's just a fun X-Men book. For my money, Wolverine and the X-Men is tied for best X-Men book right now. All New X-Men is really, really good. But it's also really, really heavy and serious. Wolverine and the X-Men is almost like a continuation of the Chris Claremont era X-Men. The characters have grown, they've developed, they've matured, but there's still these quiet moments like this issue, which we used to get, in the Claremont era, where they decided to have a softball game, or they have a picnic, or they do something. And there's not a lot of action going on in here. Most importantly, though, if you want to see how Storm gets her mohawk back, that cool 80s hairdo that she had, it happens in this issue.
Yeah.
Ignore Josh, please. Go.
Next up. Before I give you my next pick, I need to apologize. I feel like I may have done a disservice to you, the fans, by not telling you on day one that you should have been reading Journey into Mystery when Kieran Gillen took over. It turned out to be one of the greatest modern epics in the Marvel Universe, and it was super awesome. It will be taught in college classrooms alongside Sandman and Watchmen, and you should have read it. I apologize for not letting you know that. I don't know if this is going to be the same thing, but Young Avengers #1 by Kieran Gillen with art by Jamie McKelvey is Gillen's next big kind of pet project, and it takes one of the key characters from the Journey into Mystery storyline, Loki, young Loki, and throws them together with both of the classic Young Avengers, you know, your Wiccan and Hulkling and Hawkeye. Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. But we also see other new characters. We've got Miss America, some young Wonder Girl analog whose name eludes me at the moment, and Novar, nobody's favorite Marvel character. He was an Avenger, and he was a bad guy, and then he showed up here and there, but he's actually kind of compelling in this issue. So, if you want to get in on the beginning of something that could be a very cool, overwhelming arc, if you like indie books like Phonogram, this is the original creative team from Phonogram, and it's definitely got a feel similar to that, especially the first 3 or 4 pages. It was like a mixture of Phonogram and Hawkeye, and it just really, really appealed to me. But if you like young characters, if you like kind of an irreverent, hipper version of the Avengers, what?
If you like young characters.
If you like young girls. No.
There we go again. I need young girls.
I need young girls. New Young Avengers #1 was really good, and you should totally check it out.
Speaking of Hawkeye, my next pick is FF #3, written by writer of Hawkeye, Matt Fraction, and art by Mike Allred, who is an indie artist most known for his work on his Madman book. This book has grown on me with each issue. You may recall, go back and watch the video where we talked about issue #1, and we were both pleasantly surprised by how much we liked FF #1. Now, the story has continued to grow, the art has really grown on me, and I'm honestly more interested in this team than I am of the actual Fantastic Four. I think that the makeup of this team is much more interesting, led by Ant-Man Scott Lang, along with She-Hulk, Medusa, and Ms. Thing. I don't remember what her real name is, but...
Darla Daring.
There you go, Darla. I like the name Darla. Reminds me of Little Rascals. Darla. Plus the Kids of the Future Foundation. So you've got these 4 adults that are thrust into this weird situation of being the temporary Fantastic Four for 4 minutes and keeping an eye on all of these weird Moloid kids and the kids from Power Pack and this Dragon Man guy and other stuff. And they've come to realize now that the Fantastic Four may not be coming back. It's been longer than 4 minutes, and they also have a visitor from the future, Old Man John Storm. So Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, has somehow come back in time, and he's got like a cybernetic leg, and he's missing an eye and white hair, so he's obviously very old.
He's Cable?
Yeah, big guns and pouches. And he's come back to tell them that, you know, they ran into this alliance of Annihilus and Kang and Doctor Doom, who have decided to join forces, and they're wreaking havoc on the world. So Ant-Man decides, you know what, we got to take it to Doctor Doom, and that could be interesting. So if you are reading Hawkeye and you're enjoying it, as you should, first you should be enjoying it, or reading it, and second you should be enjoying it. You really should check out FF. It's got a very similar tone, kind of a lighthearted playfulness, but still serious and fun vibe that Fraction is doing over in Hawkeye. And Allred's art is, I don't want to say it's not like David Aja, it's not like some of the artists over there, but it fits this series well. So I'm digging it.
Yeah, there's sort of an inherent whimsy in Allred's work that really works well with the material. And if you've been thinking to yourselves that, you know, there aren't enough really pretentious villain nicknames in the Marvel Universe, Matt Fraction will treat you to Doom the Annihilating Conqueror. So there's that. Next up, my last pick of this week is Red Hood and the Outlaws, number 16, with words by Scott Lobdell and art by Timothy Green II. This is a Death of the Family tie-in featuring, the Death of the Family, if you're not familiar, if you've been living under a rock, is the Joker terrorizing the entire Bat family, anyone the Bat family ever met, like their cousins and pets and stuff. And this is a tie-in to Death in the Family that's actually really, really refreshing, and that the Joker's not in it. We see some of his machinations being fought by the secondary stream team. We've got Red Hood and the Outlaws, which at this point doesn't have Red Hood because he's off being tortured by the Joker. So you basically got Arsenal, or Red Arrow, and Coriander, the Starfire. and teaming up with the remainder of the Teen Titans now that they're Red Robin-less, since he's also presumably being tortured by the Joker. And it's really great. You see kind of two generations of heroes sort of semi-meshing, and they have issues and not issues. And it's really great to see these characters that in the old continuity were well acquainted. I mean, a lot of these people were teammates in the past, they were friends, and to see their dynamic in the new universe is very cool. And it's also nice to see a different side of the secondary characters. You know, when Tim Drake is there, everyone in Titans is second string. You know, he's their Batman. He always knows the right answer. He's always calling the shots. Same thing with Jason and the Outlaws. You know, to see these teams kind of leaderless, but seeing who steps up and how they mesh together is just a lot of fun, and it really, I think, adds a lot of flavor to the Death of the Family, and as it gets away from the Joker stabs somebody every week formula. So Red Hood and the Outlaws, a lot of fun this week.
So what do you think's on the platter?
What do I think's on the platter? I think if it is Alfred's head, Scott Snyder and I are going to have a conversation.
I also think it's Alfred's head. So, I don't know. We're just going to have to hang in there, wait and see. Batman 17 coming out in February. The epic conclusion to the epic Death of the Family. What do you think's under the cover on the platter? Post your comments below. Do you agree with our choices this week? Yes, no, maybe so. Let us know. I'm going to rhyme for the rest of the episode. Rhyme time. It's rhyme time. So that's it. We hope to see you soon at Alter Ego Comics, or if you're not in the area, go to your local comic book store this week and pick up some good reads.